The Human Optimization Podcast is proudly brought to you by Vicon Supplements, where quality meets sustainability. Vicon's all-natural supplements are handcrafted and sustainably produced in Canada, bringing you products that nourish both your well-being and our planet. Visit viconsupplements.com today and be a part of a greener, healthier future.
Are you ready to embark on a journey to the best version of you? Join me, Lisa Pitel-Killah, as I dive deep into the world of hair tissue mineral analysis and functional medicine with fellow experts, and guide you on the path of unlocking your full potential. As a multi-time kettlebell sport world champion, I'm on a mission to reach high-performance professionals from around the world to help you minimize tiring symptoms, maximize health, and gain unstoppable energy. This is the Human Optimization Podcast. Welcome, everyone, to a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. Today, I have Leo Tonkin here with us. He has revolutionized the salt therapy industry with his innovative approach and tireless dedication to transforming the way people think about respiratory health and wellness. You're going to absolutely love today's episode. Leo is considered a thought leader and a futurist. He's a published author, a highly sought-after Keystone speaker and lecturer. He has been the pioneering force behind the salt therapy industry. And as a recent cancer survivor, he's passionate about the difference salt therapy makes in people's lives. He recently launched a video podcast, Distinctly Well, inquiring into the what, how, and why for living and being well in all facets of life. Leo, welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, we're glad that you took the time today to share with us and talk just about salt therapy and how it can change lives. And so we always have a story about why we are here. I want to hear it. I know everybody wants to hear. How did you get here?
Yeah, well, that's a lot longer than you have available on your podcast, but let me kind of give a little bit of a shorter answer. Like most people, as we go through life, we learn lessons and we try to take care of ourselves and do the best we can. And things evolve. As a kid, I remember having allergies, back in the day, and taking different pills and shots and things of that nature. Yeah. And never occurred to me about, looking at alternative, safe, holistic ways of healing and treating. And I think, the pendulum has swung over the last several years, particularly since the pandemic. But even before so, you started to really see people being somewhat resigned about our current healthcare system, and people taking health into their own hands. And about 12 years ago, I learned about salt therapy, and I didn't know what it was. I mean, I remember gargling with salt water, and I still do as a kid, and, being by the ocean here in South Florida. And, salt has been good in many ways. You put saline solution in your eyes, hydrating with salt. I mean, a lot of people know that salt is essential. We cry salt, we sweat salt. So what is it? What is it about salt, and how is it essential for us? And learning about halotherapy, which is what dry salt therapy is all about, is breathing in dry salt particles. And so I was curious as why I never heard about it. And I have my whole career has been in the organizational leadership consulting world. I started that back in the late 80s and early 90s with Stephen Covey with the Seven Habits program and a lot of other things around that. And so I had my consulting firm kind of dive into the salt industry and came back with basically blue ocean. There was maybe 10 facilities offering it. And I thought, wow. And as I looked at the research and I saw how this was not a fad, but like something that really contributes to people, I said, well, why not make this available? And that's how Salt Chamber started. And we started to penetrate the spa and wellness industry in creating really unique experiences where you go into a room and you're there from 25 minutes to 45 minutes, and basically you're breathing in salt air. And the effect of it, I'm sure we'll get into, but that's how it started. And here we are 12 years later, having done about 3,500 projects in all types of industry, where It is in wellness centers, it's in senior living, it's in spas, and it becomes an experience. And I think that's a lot about what your listeners are looking for, both how can we have our own version of our self-care at home, and where are the
Yeah.
places that we go to get sauna or get contrast or do the things that really optimize the quality of our life and the longevity of our life. And that's how
Yeah.
Salt Chamber got born.
Amazing. And I'm fascinated because you're right. Salt is, from even a mineral perspective, just the basics, we need sodium for our adrenal function. It's our first step in the resiliency to stress, right? And so that's fascinating. I definitely want to know. And so let's talk about some of the science-backed benefits just for even respiratory health. And I kind of want to add as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a therapy not only for humans but for animals as well.
Yeah. I mean, when you stand back and think about it,
Mm-hmm.
and you look to see what are the most pressing issues, conditions, diseases, ailments that people have, is very similar to other mammals that are breathing in air.
Yeah.
And it is kind of interesting that when you turn on the evening news and look at the most expensive TV commercials that are hitting the nationwide at one time, it's asthma, it's COPD,
Yep.
it's eczema, psoriasis, and our biggest organs, our skin and our respiratory system, are the ones that are always dealing with the elements outside, with the quality of the air as well as indoor. So animals are impacted.
Yeah.
We're doing it with racehorses, I'll talk about, and cats and dogs
Mhm.
and others. But the science is there. Over many countries, this is a medical treatment covered by the country's healthcare providers.
Wow.
Uh, the United States, we're in a very unique situation with our healthcare system, with big pharma
Mhm.
and the medical associations and everything. So, well, we're more interested in don't do anything until something's wrong,
Right.
and give me a pill to fix it, and let me go about my business. I think that's changing. Um, but as I started to look at all the research that's out there are double-blind studies and random and all of this. But at the end of the day, we look at respiratory.
Mhm.
What is it that is the mechanism that causes issues? And a lot of it is inflammation. As we
Yep.
know, inflammation is a big thing throughout all aspects of our body. Uh, and you look at viruses and bacteria, and you look at, as an example, what COVID was a respiratory disease.
Yeah.
And you look at our children that are constantly going to school and catching germs and such. Well, salt is a natural antimicrobial, antibacterial product.
Mhm.
Nothing grows on salt. Salt as a surface kills anything. SARS, MERS, COVID. That's why it was a preservative before refrigeration. People pack salt around their food, their meats, because nothing could penetrate it.
Mm.
Likewise, that's what happens when we breathe it in. When we breathe in dry salt particles, it literally helps stop the spreading of any kind of virus and such. But even more so, dry salt is anti-inflammatory, which is a big distinction between moist salt. I
Yes.
love being by the ocean, but that salt is evaporating. The
Mhm.
quality of the particle doesn't have the absorption levels that dry salt does. And
Mm.
that's a big difference between wet salt and dry salt. So halotherapy, which is produced with a device called the halo generator, a small device that takes particles and creates a dry aerosol, is what you breathe in. A little
Mhm.
bit different than um, a steroid inhaler
Yeah.
that you are breathing in that has chemicals and other things.
Mhm.
But you're breathing it in, and because it's anti-inflammatory, it opens up the airways, the bronchioles, it opens up, and you get more oxygen. So for many people, especially as we get older, our VO2, our oxygen levels, our lung function starts to wane.
Yeah.
So how do we restore that? How do we take care of that? As well as preventative,
Mhm.
proactive measures. We breathe in 20,000 breaths a day, yet you don't realize what we're breathing in. Brake dust, rubber dust, pollution, dander, wildfires. I mean, because you can't see it in many places, we don't think it's there. But if
Right.
I gave you a glass of dirty water, probably wouldn't drink it.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we clean our respiratory? How do we clean our lungs? So I like to think salt therapy is like the toothbrush that cleans us out. And just like brushing your teeth on a regular basis or washing your skin and taking care of it, what are we doing for our respiratory system? And that's where salt therapy comes in.
Yeah. Amazing. And the relationship again, just kind of as you mentioned with regards to moist and dry salt, two totally different sides of that coin with what they can do when they enter the system, right? And so you mentioned I want to talk about immunity, but I also want to talk about, you mentioned kind of the apparatus, the generator that would generate those particles.
Yeah.
Is that something that people can have in their home, or like how does
Yeah.
that work?
Yeah. I mean, how the industry started was really going into facilities and developing and building rooms.
Yeah.
You may not have a couple hundred square feet and build a whole room. And a
Yeah.
lot of it was about creating an experience. The very first salt rooms were designed to look like the hollowed out chambers in the salt mines over in Eastern Europe.
Wow.
This is where it evolved from.
Yeah.
So a couple hundred years ago, throughout Poland and Belarus and all around those areas, there's incredible salt mines, hundreds of meters underground.
Hmm.
And that's where they were grinding and chiseling because salt was a commodity. It was valuable. It still is.
Yeah.
And they noticed that the workers were the healthiest working in those salt mines. And so what they started to do is take patients with respiratory conditions
Hmm.
and put them down in these hollowed out chamber areas. And that's where they would stay for not just an hour or two, but overnight. There's still health resorts underground in Waliska, Poland, and some other places. And so when they came above ground, they were creating these kind of rooms to emulate what it was like to be underground. And then fast forward, we've developed these Himalayan salt bricks and backlighting and really cool
Yeah.
rooms. But to your point, it really comes down to this piece of equipment that takes pure grade sodium chloride,
Hmm.
not table salt, not Morton salt in your kitchen,
Yeah.
or Himalayan or Dead Sea or any other salt. This is salt from the earth that's been purified
Hmm.
so that it's just sodium chloride, nothing else. And this device is what grinds it into this aerosol. So over the last years, it's been, our equipment's made in a medical device facility. It fits all these standards.
Hmm.
Well, we did develop a consumer product, which is a small halo generator, and you can sit in a pop-up salt booth that we have,
Hmm.
where you don't want the salt particles to get all over your house. That's
Hmm.
the thing. That's
Right.
why you need an enclosed room or a booth. Or when I travel with it, I go into the shower stall. So people
Oh,
can do it, and your listeners will be able to get a discount and take a look at it and everything else. But
yeah.
it is something that people do at home. And there's people that build beautiful salt rooms. We did Tony Robbins' house. He's got an
Amazing.
amazing salt room. A lot of celebrities and a lot of people that want, a different level of creating their own spa or
Yeah.
chill space in their
Hmm.
home where you can go and breathe. And salt's great because you can layer other modalities at the same time. You can
Hmm.
put on your guided meditation or breath work. You could be doing compression legs. You could
Yeah.
be, I mean, there's facilities as you're getting your IV hydration, you're breathing in dry salt particles. So there's a lot of neat concepts of what's happening in various facilities.
Yeah.
But athletes are doing it to increase their recovery time and
Hmm.
endurance and performance. You mentioned earlier racehorses,
Yeah.
thoroughbreds, tremendous athletes, tremendous lung capacities.
Yeah.
So we're at the World Equestrian Center in Ocala, Florida, and the Hagyard Equine Medical Institute in Lexington, Kentucky, and a lot of studies. And so it's pretty fascinating. And, people, it's a low awareness
Hmm.
level to a certain degree for people. And a lot of people think, oh, yes, I have a salt lamp in my house, a Himalayan salt lamp, and it's cleaning the air around. Well, there's been advertisings around for many years saying
Yeah.
it produces negative ions, or if you put the Himalayan salt in a sauna, it's creating. That is all false. It's marketing. There's no evidence. In fact, it's been proven otherwise. But it is a great glow. And as you
Right.
know, all elements vibrate at a certain frequency level.
Mhm.
So when you're in a room and it's covered in Himalayan salt or salt on the floor and they make it really cool environment, great, relax.
Yeah.
A relaxed space, very clean space because salt obviously is antimicrobial and antiviral. So a lot of cool stuff is done, but people can do it at home uh,
That's
and
amazing.
uh, and bring it there. And it's safe to do every day. It's safe for children. I
Mhm.
have 4 grandkids, and they get the sniffles, and they are immediately in the salt, so
Yep.
they're not getting sick as much. Children with cystic fibrosis, when you children that are pre-asthmatic, moms love to be able to do this because they don't want their kids doing steroid inhalers and getting addicted to that. You start to really learn about it, and it's a very simple thing to do.
Mhm.
Salt is inexpensive.
Mhm.
Some people wonder because if they have hypertension or high blood pressure, they're told to be on a low sodium diet. And that's great. That's for the digestive system. This is
Right.
inhalation, operates differently. So
Mhm.
it's safe for people, really, for all categories. The only contraindications are people that have maybe stage 3 or higher lung cancer, where
Mhm.
they have lesions in their lungs and the salt will irritate. And we always tell people to check with their physicians, but most of the physicians don't know a lot about what salt therapy is about. So they're becoming more pulmonologists, respiratory therapists, more and more and more. But people can find out, salt, if there's a salt facility near them,
Mhm.
there is a trade association called the Salt Therapy Association.org,
Oh.
and it
Mhm.
has a whole directory of the hundreds and thousands of facilities all over the world that people can look up as well.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm definitely going to do that. And so what about this is more of a personal question because I was like, "Oh, I have an infrared sauna at home. What about putting the salt generator in an infrared sauna? Is that a problem? Or is that not it that
Well,
would
you
it
don't
be
want to
better to
do
have it enclosed in in
we,
an area where it wouldn't affect the
yeah, I mean, salt can be a corrosive when you introduce moisture and
Yeah.
humidity,
Okay.
right? And this is all about dry.
Yeah.
Now, for people at home that have it, we do have a conversion kit where you can take the small halo generator and do it there. But you need to be careful about the salt dust because the dust
Right.
particles will get into things. So you got to clean that.
Yeah, yeah.
But you don't
Okay.
want to do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, you, there are some that think about doing sauna and salt, but when you if your intent to do sauna is to sweat and
Mhm.
detox with the toxins out of your sweat, then if you had salt particles in the air, you're going to get crusty, sticky skin. It's just
Right.
not the right way.
Yep.
You don't want to layer the modality.
Yep.
From a business point of view, for those that might be in the wellness industry or in providing services like that, having a separate sauna and a separate salt booth, if you're doing a small booth, a salt session is only about 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Typically an infrared session is somewhere around 30 minutes to get
Yep.
the right effect. So from a business model, at most in a sauna you can do is 2 people an hour, but with a salt booth you can do 4 people or more,
Mhm.
and it really becomes a different business model when you start looking at how do you layer and stack the modalities together.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really
I mean,
interesting.
we have people at home that have taken, a shower stall or even a closet,
Mhm.
and make it their little sanctuary. Or
That's amazing.
we have this pop-up booth that you just have this little tent, and you
Mhm.
just sit in there. And we have moms that do their homework with the kids in there, and it's pretty cool.
That is very cool. Well, and I think that one of the coolest parts of having it at home, even in the latter case that you just kind of described with mom, doing homework, it's just bringing our kids into the health and wellness space early and getting them used to that, right? And being able to use that for life and longevity.
Yeah, I mean, when you do think about it, you do a lot of work around optimization.
Mhm.
People are looking at our life expectancy getting much older,
Mhm.
whether that's someone like Dave Osprey talking to 120 to 200 years and
Yeah.
everybody else out there and Tony and everybody doing this, which is great.
Yeah.
You know, I recognize that. And you make a valid point. It starts when we're younger, and the habits from how we eat to
Mhm.
exercise to the things that we put in our system to the practices that we need to develop. And so us older folks, teaching old dogs new tricks, yes, you can. But how do you make it a habit? You know,
Right.
I was taught as a kid about brushing my teeth.
Hmm.
You just learn to brush your teeth.
Yeah.
Well, brush your lungs, do other things that are going to extend how you live a quality of life.
Yeah.
And it's no different than taking care of your car. A lot of people, they'll wait till the red light shows up,
Yeah.
and that's when we get into action where maybe we know we should bring the car in when it says to service it or to do certain things. So we're in this different mentality. And if we can get ourselves and our children to take care and be more accountable for their own health, then I think that's a big shift in the way our healthcare system will.
I
Will
I couldn't agree more. I think that is 100% correct. And kind of getting ahead of that, being proactive is so important when it comes to health, right?
Yeah.
Reactivity is not a good way to be healthy.
No, but we've been taught, unfortunately, some of our habits is, it ain't broke, don't fix it, until something's broke, then go do something about it, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I had, unfortunately, 7 years ago, I was doing a keynote speech
Hmm.
and I noticed that my voice was starting to sound marvelly.
Yep.
And I went to my primary who sent me to my ENT
Hmm.
and they scoped me and I had a mass in the back base of my tongue in my
Hmm.
throat area. And I had to get an MRI. And a couple of weeks later, when I came back from a trip after I just got engaged to my second wife,
Hmm.
um, I was sent to the emergency room to get an emergency trach put in me because what I had was stage 4 cancer,
Oh my goodness.
and had to go through, after weeks of radiation every day and chemo. And
Yeah.
I was doing salt therapy to
Hmm.
really clean out all the mucus that comes from having a tracheotomy in me.
Yeah.
And it really supported my healing.
Hmm.
But I had no idea this thing was growing in me
Wow.
for years. So, there's a lot more of wellness facilities, businesses outside of the traditional medical care. And you're seeing a lot more doctors that are more in the integrated and functional doctors
Hmm.
really adopting some of the, call it biohacking technology, self care, other modalities in how we create a whole 360-degree way of taking care of ourselves. So
Yeah.
it's shifting, and in other cultures around the world, it's very different depending on the healthcare system, right? So
Yeah.
part of our issue is our healthcare system and
Mhm.
how it works.
Yeah.
Um, so, it is something that people, I think, especially since COVID, they're taking their health more seriously.
And I agree with you there too. I think that when that time came upon us, that unexpected time came upon us, I think people really started to look at their health from a bit of a different perspective, right? Realizing that, I feel like sometimes people don't, again, they don't fix anything till it's broken, but they also think that they're fine until they're not.
No,
Right?
it is. Listen, it is so true. I know we just, had the new year and people
Mhm.
make resolutions and
Mhm.
we're constantly going through this thing, but you wonder, you know, knowing what you know now, if you would have done it when you were in your 20s or in your 30s, and so you face that. Myself, I'm 63 years old. I
Mhm.
think I'm healthy. My wife and I, we look good, we feel good.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm a bit overweight. You got different things you got to deal with. And okay, how do you exercise? How do you fit it in? And
Mhm.
to your point, you often don't do anything until you see a panel come back with your blood that says, oh, you need to address this,
With the red
and either
exclamation mark.
yeah,
Right?
or yeah, and a lot of it from our doctors is, okay, now take this pill or do that
Right.
pill. And I do think that there is more awareness. People are, yeah, I hate to say Googling things,
Mhm.
but people need to do their homework. There's a lot of noise out there. Everybody's trying to get the wellness dollar from people.
Right.
But now with telehealth technology, science, what's happening out there. I think there's a lot more that people can be doing and taking it on.
Yeah.
A lot of people will, like myself, you got the Peloton bike when it first came out, and now you use it to help dry your clothes and your towels, you know, and stuff sometimes, or that treadmill that you don't do. So
It's true.
we're all great at starting. It's the
Yeah.
sustaining of it.
Yeah.
And it's a discipline. When I used to lead the 7 Habits program, it was, it takes 21 days at least for something to become a habit.
Mhm.
And, it's simple for people to take care of themselves. Exercise a bit, learn about nutrition, what works for your own metabolism and worked. And then it's fairly simple, but we overcomplicate it and we look for that magic pill.
Yeah, we do. And
Yeah.
even with nutrition, I feel like we're always looking for the next best thing. What's the next best thing for me? And then it's a diet that, 1,000 people are doing or whatever, but that's not necessarily for you. And the other part too is even with the way that you need to take care of yourself, and you kind of mentioned this as well, is this changes over time, right?
Yeah.
As we age, this all changes, right? I'm in my 50s now. So it's like I can't take care of myself the same way I did when I was 25. It doesn't work
Right.
that way.
Right.
Right.
Although we think we are.
Yeah, we
we
think
can.
we are. We think we
Yeah.
can do that. But then we realize very quickly when we get up in the morning, it's like, ooh, that hurts. And that shouldn't feel
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Or as you get older like me, it starts to say, well, is this part of what it is? Aging. My mom
Oh,
is in good health. She's 85 years old, and you start to
mine
wonder,
too. Yep.
for me, I know you and I both know a lot of the same people in the, longevity and optimization and all of that. And I don't think the goal is to live longer. I think it really is the quality of the life. I don't want to be an old person and not being able to do things or pick up my grandkids and, walk around, the park or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So to the point earlier, we often don't do anything until it's urgent and, more critical. But then again, when you kind of can frame a different context of, wow, I want to be around for my grandkid's wedding or some other thing.
Yeah.
Then we have to look at the choices we make, and we are proactive every day. Every day we make thousands of choices unconsciously. And if we could be more intentional about what we're going to do with our time, what we're going to put into our body, how we're going to do certain things,
Yeah.
that really is where we have the ability to choose based on a higher purpose or a different context or whatever you need to create.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's one of the reasons why I think the salt therapy is so amazing. Because like you said, it's 10 minutes a day.
Yep.
Even if you do it
Yeah.
3 days a week. Like who doesn't
Listen,
have 30 minutes a week?
it's a great thing to do for a timeout. One of the things I always am experimenting, but I have done guided meditation. I've got binaural beats. I've got brain tap. You can do different things in that 20 minutes, 30 minutes, a quick mindfulness exercise,
Yeah.
gratitude. You can do sound therapy. So I think it is important for both the mind, body, and breath to really take that time out. And I look forward to doing that on a regular basis where I get into my head space. I try to put life into perspective and not stress out. And if you can do that all while taking care of yourself, it's great. And what a lot of people don't know is that salt therapy, halotherapy is great for the skin. So when you have your skin exposed at the same time, it's great because these particles are so small. And when I mean small, to kind of illustrate it, your hair, just one strand, the diameter of that is about 50 microns. Well, the salt that comes out of the halo generator is less than 1 micron.
Wow.
So it is so small, you almost have to hold up a laser light to see it. But because of the concentration that comes out, you do see the salt in the air. But when it gets to your skin, it penetrates the first layer of the epidermis. And a lot of people who have eczema and psoriasis have breakouts due to inflammation.
Right.
So the dry salt reduces inflammation. For people that have, let's say, acne and bacteria that gets into the skin, it
Hmm.
kills and helps pull out the oil, and it makes skin more rigid. So a lot
Mm,
of people don't realize the elements that we're facing can be also something that we can use with our skin. And that's
that's
part of when I
amazing.
created Salt Chamber, which is SALT. It stands for Skin and Lung Therapy. Salt.
Amazing.
So, but
Yeah.
anyways, to your point, yeah, how do you do this on a regular basis? Um, and it's kind of like anything else. Are you doing yoga? Are you stretching every day? Are you, what part of your body are you taking care of when?
Yeah.
So if you can make this a ritual of doing it once, twice a week,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Okay. Can you do it too much? Like if somebody wants to do it every day for
No,
10 minutes.
we have people that are doing it every day.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it is safe. I mean, the studies and everything that show it's safe. You
Yep.
can't overdose from doing too much salt.
Okay.
But I will say, um, frequency is more of the collective benefit of salt therapy rather
Mm.
than trying to do more time in one session. Doesn't really work that way. You're
That was
better
my
off.
that
Yeah,
was my next question. I'm like, is
yeah,
10 minutes the max? Can you do
yeah,
20 or 30? Is there any
yeah. No,
benefit to that? So no. So it's
yeah,
about
no.
short
It's
bursts of
more.
frequency.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's mostly about the consistency and the frequency of
Okay.
use, right?
Okay.
Just like if you're taking pill, they try to do it every day. You just don't take all the pills at once.
Exactly.
So
Makes total sense.
it's something that makes sense. But no, we have a couple of real cool, interesting case studies. Young woman who has cystic fibrosis.
Hmm.
I think she started when she was 7, 8 years old,
Yeah.
and now she is going to college. And she had a salt booth, and she was doing it on a regular basis. And the doctors were amazed because all of the results and staying out of the hospital. If anybody knows anybody with CF,
Hmm.
they often have to go to the hospital several times a year to get drained out, cleaned out,
Yep.
different things occurring. And it works. So there's
Wow.
athletes that do it on a regular basis as well.
Hmm.
Same with the racehorses.
Hmm. And what about, so when we're talking about, athletes and training, I'm curious, is there a good time to do it? So on the days that you're training, like do it after you're training, or what would be the best
Yep.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah. There are some interesting protocols that we've been doing with athletes,
Hmm.
and horse athletes are kind of interesting to look at because you
Yeah.
are just looking at the results, and they're getting scoped and really see. So when you start measuring your lung volume, your oxygen saturation,
Hmm.
the more oxygen you get into the red blood cells, the better your cardiovascular system is going to work.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have better performance and endurance. A lot of athletes will do salt therapy before a workout or a game or whatnot, because it's going to open up the oxygen, to open
Okay.
up more oxygen to get in.
Hmm.
So it's a matter of, if you can imagine, okay, let me clean myself up and open myself
Yeah.
up, I'm going to be able to perform better.
Hmm.
And then likewise after, for a recovery session. So you have people that are doing it in both instances, and there are some health club facilities, fitness centers that have, salt therapy in there as part of a recovery lounge
Hmm.
or a workout lounge where this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
So for sure, from recovery and for pre and post workout.
Amazing. Wow.
Hmm.
I can't wait to try this myself. I
Yeah.
mean, because I have heard a little bit about it, but now you've brought this to another level. And actually, I heard about it about 2 years ago, just locally where I am, and it was a specific one for horses
Hmm.
because we work with horses too. So that's why I was like, oh, that's so interesting. So when I saw you kind of come up on my list, I was like, oh, I
Right.
can't wait to dive
Right.
more into this and figure
Yeah.
this out. Because like, so even outside of athletic performance, kind of just thinking about even the immune response. I mean, you talked about certain, conditions and issues, because that can also, we're breathing that in, it's going to support our immunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, at some point over the last 12 years, probably happened over about 3 years, right around maybe before COVID, I really
Mhm.
started to look at, interesting, why is it that when you look at the world's population,
Mhm.
why is it you have so many respiratory conditions, allergies, asthma, CF, COPD, cyanitis, emphysema, lung cancer. The list goes on. Even sleep apnea. People that do salt therapy, the dry salt reduces inflammation throughout the esophagus and larynx, and you breathe better at night. You sleep better.
Yeah.
But we've become more mouth breathers than what we should be is more nose breathers.
Right.
And so that's part of it. But it is interesting to look at the quality of the air we breathe. That really is behind it. While we all have some level of a genetic and how we grew up socially or the air that we're around,
Yep.
but there is a direct correlation to the quality of the air outdoors and indoor that are impacting us that we're not aware of. And according to the World Health Organization, 90% of the world's population lives in poor air quality. Now, me and you may not think we are because we don't see the pollution outside necessarily.
Right.
But when you start looking at the collective wildfires and the volcanoes and the methane and the emissions and everything that's in the air around us, that's what we're breathing in.
Yeah.
And we don't have a filter system. Luckily, our body is designed that when we breathe it in, we have alveoles and different things to try to trap it, just like you do in your home.
Yeah.
But how do you clean that filter system out?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Likewise, indoor air pollution can be 3 to 5 times more worse than outdoor. We have antiquated air conditioning systems. When you think about your air filters in your home, how often are you changing them?
Yeah.
Do you have the right ones?
Mm-hmm.
What about air purifiers or air monitors? So if people really want to get to the source of the issue of where respiratory conditions come from,
Yeah.
start caring for the air you breathe.
Mm-hmm.
People will always have a water bottle around them and they care about the water they drink.
Yeah.
What about the air you breathe? And that people aren't focused on. And we kind of realize that by wearing masks during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some cultures that that's part of their life.
That's
They
true,
are really conscious. And in some parts of the world, they need to because the particulate matter that's in the air, particulate 2.5 in particular, is what's causing so much problem in a lot of the Asian countries.
Yep.
So when you start to think about it, it's like, well, look at what climate is doing. Right now, we have longer allergy seasons. They're starting earlier. You've got more dander. You've got what the temperature levels are doing to the agriculture. You have amazing things that are happening in the outdoor world. And in the indoor world, we're somewhat unconscious of what are the chemicals we use to clean our floors and our surfaces and the things that we use that are putting contaminants in the air that we are breathing in. And so once you start being intentional and conscious of that, then you start to realize, oh, maybe there are things that we can do in our home to have the right types of things to ensure that we are breathing in good air and can sustain our well-being better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I find it interesting when you're talking about the air we breathe because, we can live for, days without water, right? We can live for longer without food, obviously, but we can only live a few minutes without air.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Well,
so, it is number one on the list.
it is. It's if you can't breathe, and if you
Yeah.
can't breathe easy or you're not strain. I mean, the seniors, that's why they were so susceptible to the pandemic. But the first salt room we did was right in the middle of the pandemic up in the Bronx to a nursing home. And we've now put a lot of salt rooms in senior living facilities.
Yeah.
We have people that go, not using their oxygen tanks as much.
Wow.
So when you look at the quality of life, and particularly as I get older, am I getting winded walking up and down the stairs? Or am I getting, can I play around a golf? Or, even if it's taking a walk down the street.
Yeah.
So to your point, when you can't breathe well, quality of life is a big issue for ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. Wow. Well, that was amazing, Leo. Thank you so much for taking the time. And so we'll definitely be sharing all the links that have been talked about as well. You can find Leo at Salt Chamber Inc. in Twitter. You can also find at saltchamberinc.com. Okay, that's the main
You got
website.
that?
Yeah,
Yep.
and we'll have all those links again
Yeah,
in
you
the
can
description.
you can visit me on LinkedIn at Leo Tonkin, and there'll be some information that you'll provide. And if people are interested in a home unit or learning more about it,
Amazing.
there's be some a good incentive and way for people to save some money by listening to your podcast as well.
Amazing. So take advantage of that. I know I am, because I'm interested in having this in my home. Because again, I'm always looking for the modalities to be able to just keep things as healthy as possible. And you know what? When you can kind of, again, combine that with a gratitude session or some meditation, I mean, I think that's a win-win. So hopefully, if this resonates with you, you'll take advantage of that. And so if you're watching on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. We'll be here in a couple weeks with a new episode, and subscribe to my channel. Give this episode a thumbs up. If you're listening on your favorite podcast host, we appreciate you. Make sure you give this episode a like, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us today on the Human Optimization Podcast. Episode technical production is by Grace Sylvester and guest booking by Stu Tate. Want to learn more? Visit Pitel-Killah.com for incredible free resources to supercharge your journey to becoming the best version of you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to the Human Optimization Podcast and follow me on social media at Lisa Pitel-Killah.